Hi, teammates. My name is Sean J. McCaw, and I am your host of the Eurostep, where we try to look behind the curtain of European basketball and see some of the crazier and nicer sides of the athletes that play it or people that are around basketball and in the inner circle of basketball to try to give you guys and girls some information, some nice tips into what goes on in the life of athletes. So before we begin, I'll remind everybody, especially if you're new, please hit the comment button or the question mark at the bottom of your screen with the speech bubble on it. And if you want to ask a question while the show is going, then I'll try to get it in to my guest as well. Yeah, let's get it. Let's get the show on the road. So my guest for tonight's episode is a household name in German basketball. I think if you don't know who he is and you're in Germany, then you probably lived under a rock. I know he wouldn't consider himself to be a legend in German basketball, but the guy played 477 games in the top league. He sits amongst one of the top scorers in the history of the German Bundesliga. And if that's not a legendary career, I don't know what is. We'll talk about how a kid from a small Alabama town beat the odds to come over to Europe and having an amazing career. We'll also talk about his start in the coaching and what's next. So let me get my guest in here. Hi to everyone that just joined. Melody and Sam, I see you guys. So now he should be in here soon. Let me take the picture. Yeah, there we go. There
Sean,
we
what's up,
go.
man? How are you?
What's good, man? Nice to see you, man.
Good to see you. It's been a while, man. How's the family,
Yeah,
first and foremost?
yeah, man. Everything's good, man. How's the family?
They're doing well, man. They're doing great, man. Everything's well over here.
Good. So basically, this is the part of the show where I kind of say where I know my guest, and it's crazy because um, we played against each other when you were in Frankfurt and I was in Jena. That was my last season. That was my last season playing,
Yes,
and
yes.
you were already damn good in Frankfurt, and I can remember. I can remember if anybody's watched you play, they know that you're like in constant movement, right? So you're
Yeah,
like running around, and I got to guard you, and I'm like, yo, this dude is not. He's not stopping. He's just running around. I got to try to box this guy out. I'm like this skinny man, and all he's doing is moving around. And I remember at the game in Frankfurt, I had a decent game that game, and you
hmm
went out one game. You won at one point, and I was still in the game, and I was like, damn. I'm glad he's out of here because I'm at the end of my career, so I'm trying to get like those old man breaks, on
Yeah,
defense every once in a while, try to get in the help side and not really play any defense. But it wasn't
right.
possible playing against you because you was always going to the offensive rebound.
Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, I think that was the first game of the season when I moved to Frankfurt.
Yeah, it
So
was.
I didn't know Yana. I knew some of the players. I remember you guys had like Jamal Bassett.
Yeah,
I've heard of you. I never played against you, but yeah, I remember that game. It was like for me a big game, just a big game because I had moved to a bigger club like
right.
Frankfurt, and the year before I just came from Leverkusen. So I definitely remember that game for sure.
And you were hyped, so that's why you were moving around so damn much. Even your free throw routine, you moving around like crazy.
Yeah, man, just a dude who had a bunch of energy, man. That's how I made my career.
A, a high motor, ain't nothing wrong with it. So basically, this is how it'll go. I start out with normal questions, and then we'll
hmm
go on down from how you started to the end of your career and so on, and talk a
Right.
little bit about the coaching as well. So share what you like.
Okay.
Um, Go in as much detail as you like. I'm not trying to stop people from explaining their story.
Yeah.
And yeah, then I got a couple at the end. I've got a couple of quick answer questions, so that people get to know you a little bit better, and that'll be about it, man. So you ready?
Okay. Yeah, let's do it, man. Ready.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're from Gadsden, Alabama, right?
Gaston, Alabama, small town, um, about 45 to 50 minutes from Birmingham, Alabama, 2 hours from Atlanta, Georgia. So yeah, small town, 35,000 people. Uh,
Not
just one of those.
exactly the not exactly the hotbed of guys coming over to Europe and having an amazing career, or
No, definitely not. I mean, it's the typical small town where you got a bunch of high school legends. You got guys who maybe went to play in college, small NIA Division II. I think we had a couple guys during that time maybe go small D1, UAB, Southern Alabama, Middle Tennessee State, things like that. So it's more a football town, than a basketball town.
So, what were your goals when you were in high school? Like, did you just want to be like the best player that you could be, or was your goal like go to college and get out of here somewhere?
Man, to be honest, my I didn't even play organized basketball until I was in the 10th grade. So like my journey was definitely, different and crazy because my ninth grade year, uh, I didn't play. I played church league basketball. I met a guy by the name of Steve Stewart, who my cousin was playing on his AAU team, and I tried out for the basketball team. My ninth grade year didn't make it, and he saw me. He's like, "Hey, did you make the team?" Blah blah blah. No, I didn't. He's like, "Hey, why don't you come play church league for me?" Like, okay, cool. Just kept me in the competitive spirit to play,
Right.
and then came back my 10th grade year, made JV, and played the last 2 years of varsity. And also, I was kind of a knucklehead, so I didn't have my grades together my first couple of years. So I kind of, once I knew that I could start, I started getting some attention, started getting some mid-major looks and some high-major letters. But I was getting more mid-major teams. Back then, they call it like Prop 48 to sit out your first year.
First year, right?
Uh, but I didn't want to do that, so I took the junior college route. But I think in the end, once I recognized that, hey, maybe I can do something with this, I really focused in and say, yeah, I got to use this opportunity to try to get out and play some college ball somewhere.
At what point did you realize that maybe you could use basketball as a vehicle to do something else? And how old were you? Like, were you a junior or senior?
I was junior, junior. I remember I went to this Alabama like state camp. It was like a big recruiting camp, and it was some really good players there from the state of Alabama, players from Georgia, Mississippi, Florida Panhandle that came up, and I held my own and played in one of the big All Star games there with a guy. Chris Williams was in that camp. God rest his soul. Who's a guy who played in Frankfurt, had a great career in Europe.
Right.
Um, so that's when I felt like going into my senior year that I had a chance to go somewhere and play ball for sure and do something.
And then you went to Southern Union State Community College, right?
Yes, went to Southern Union
The
State Community College.
JUCO.
Yeah, junior college in Alabama, Watley, Alabama, about a
How was
town
that?
of. It was great, man. It's a basketball factory. At that time, uh, my guy, Coach Rafford, who's a legend there, who's now retired, had a guy, Al Dillard, played from Arkansas,
Mhm.
Birmingham native. I think Coach Rafford at that time probably sent 25 guys Division I, mid-major, high major. So, I mean, they had dominated the junior college basketball scene in the state of Alabama, constantly making it to the national tournament. So, it was an easy sell for me to go there and play for a guy like that to be able to, if I came there and did the work and did what I had to do, that I can get to the next level, whether it be mid-major. I didn't know at that time. I just knew
Right.
I had to go there and put in the work. He was a tough guy. He played a good style, so I thought it fit well.
How was your JUCO experience? Because I also went to a JUCO after I left Arizona. I went to a junior college for 1 year and then transferred to Southern Utah.
Okay.
And JUCO is a different world, and especially back then,
Yeah.
it's a different world. And
Yeah.
you gotta be a different type of dude to go through JUCO for 2 years. I mean, I only went through it 1 year, and I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
And that's a different beast, right?
It's a different type of grind, and even for you to go from a place from Arizona, Lou Olson, to
Right.
go to a junior college, just like you on a honeymoon and then you on a nightmare, I mean, but like for me, it was just like I didn't know any better. It was just like, okay, I decided not to go to a place like Murray State or Morehead State to do a Prop 48 to go to junior college. It was a small town, about 8,000 people. Uh, the next big town with a Walmart and Winn-Dixie was like 20 minutes away in Roanoke. So, but it was a basketball factory, like competition through the roof. I remember that year we came in, we had like 8 or 9 freshmen and 3 or 4 sophomores that were coming back, and that team had just came from a national championship run. So the competition was high. It was no free lunch. It was like the coach was just like, "Hey, you got to earn your keep. Everyone here all state. You know, signees to LSU. We had a guy, I think we had a guy, a signee from like Alabama. He didn't make it, so he had to go to Southern Union. So it was just competition, man. That's what you want to see when you're in that situation.
So after you leave JUCO, you go to Ole Miss. Have two pretty
Yes.
solid years at Ole Miss. What was the difference between, going to a JUCO and then going to an established university?
Man, it was just like heaven because, like I said, I didn't know. I mean, I started to realize it when I started getting recruited heavy by Division One teams, going to UMass, going to, Southern Miss, going to Ole Miss on those visits. And man, once you got to Ole Miss, it's just like the SEC, what you see, growing up, the Alabama, the Auburn, the Arkansas.
Right.
And many people don't know this, but I was a junior college All-American, state player of the year, and my first year at Ole Miss, I had the red shirt. So that was like a tough, because we had a great recruiting class, and then we had a guy named Raheem Lockhart who was all SEC at the big combo big position, and then we had brought in Justin Reed, who was borderline McDonald's All American at the other position of the big. So the coach was just like, we can use you, but I think it's best suited that we redshirt you this year, and then you get 2 years of the full starter. So it worked out in the end. It was a great experience, man, to be in the SEC, to come back home and play twice a year. In Alabama and Auburn, that my mom, my family, my dad, my grandmother, everybody could come see me play. So it was a great experience, man. I wouldn't have changed it for the world.
So then after Ole Miss, then you take your first station overseas and you go to Iceland. Um,
Yes, yes,
that's
yes,
a Okay,
yes,
Iceland is not also the hotbed of where you say, okay, I'm going to go to Iceland, I'm going to wreck shop, and I'm going to be a,
yeah.
a German legend after I leave Iceland. But you
Hey,
had a really successful year. You guys won the double. You won the
yes,
cup and the season title.
yes.
Um, how prepared were you for going to Iceland before you went there?
You know what's funny? That the thing was, I signed a deal before that with a team in France,
Hmm.
and they're in the first division now. I think it was Bolazak.
Hmm.
So at
Yeah.
that time, they were third division. I think it's called M
And
one.
two, I
Yeah,
think it's in two. Yeah.
yeah. So it was M1 back then. So my agent called me. It was me in August. Hey, I got a job for you in France. $30,000. I was hyped. Like, hey, it's a great opportunity. Fresh out of college, man. I went there, signed the contract, played like two scrimmage games really well. 25-10, dominated. And I remember right before they moved me into my apartment, they called me in. It was like, yeah, we like you, but we thought you were bigger on tape because on at Ole Miss, SEC weight program, I was around 235.
Hmm.
But then I had guys at Ole Miss who came back in the summers like, if you want to play overseas, you got to be in better shape. You got to drop 10 to 15 pounds. So that's what I did in that summer. So it didn't work out. So I had to come back home for 6 weeks, wait, look for jobs, and then all of a sudden the situation in Keflavik became. And so I was prepared because I had a situation where I went to France. It didn't work. It was like kind of devastating, because I
Right.
got cut. But you don't know in France is they have this clause that they can sign players, and they still have it to this day. It's like a French law that they can basically cut you within the first 10 days of the contract.
Right.
And they use that in the basketball scene as well. So, but everything worked out and went to Iceland, man. We were playing FIBA Euro Cup. I didn't know what that was. Came in, we had another American, only two Americans at that time, me and Nick Bradford, who went to Kansas. Um, he was a veteran. He had already a couple of years ahead of me, so he kind of gave me the ropes. And man, we went there and we did great things. And it was a great success, man, to win the cup, to push for the top 16 of FIBA Europe. We lost on the last day, and to win the championship. So that's like one of the things I'll never forget about my first real European experience.
So obviously, because you had such a good season there, you got noticed. People started looking at you. Um,
Hmm.
how was it that you came to Germany after that?
Well, I mean, my agent at the time, Danny Servik, he was always hosting these workouts, and me and Julius Jenkins, we met because we had the same agent. We work out in the summer, and when I went to Iceland, he was in Nuremberg.
Right.
So we would talk and keep in contact. He would tell me how great the league was, and at that time he was playing second division.
Second league, right.
So when I talked to him, I told him I had an offer from Karlsruhe. The coach at the time, Uwe Saul, was in Atlanta watching one of my guys, Dominic Jones, who played 10 years, I think, in Germany, work out. He was a rookie coming out of VCU. And I happened to be in the gym that day as well. And he watched me, saw me, we ended up talking, and then the offer came for me to come to Karlsruhe. So it was a good opportunity to come to Germany and put myself in a league I didn't know anything about, but it was a higher league than it was in Iceland. But I had played against top level competition in the FIBA Euro Cup the year before.
Right.
So that's I think that's how I got the opportunity to come to Germany, because I played against teams from Pro A France and top division Portugal.
Let me ask you something. You said a couple of times already that you didn't really know what you were getting into. I hear that from a lot of Americans that come over, that they really don't know the structure. They don't really know anything besides their contract, how much they're making,
Yeah,
bonus money, and you get
right,
a car and apartment. That's pretty much all
right,
that's standard, right?
right.
Um, whose responsibility do you think it is to inform players what they'll be facing in the future, both on and off the court? Is it more of the player or your agent or both?
I think it's both, because your agent represents you for your market, for your demand, but every you're your own person. So I think it's much different than it was back then, because we didn't have the research. The internet
Right,
really wasn't really popping like it is now.
right,
So everything is so at your fingertips now with Google, and you can know which teams pay and what teams don't pay with BAT. With the thing with FIBA helping players get their money. So I think it's still, at the end of the day, that's one part of it. But on the other side, you as a person, I think coming to Europe helps you when you come prepared to know your city a little bit, know the region where you are, understand if what you can do, where you can travel, what's a
right.
good place to go and what's a good place not to go, to understand the laws and to come there and just try to be a real citizen for the time you're there. I think that's important to know, and know about the place you're playing and also the place you're living.
So you come over to Germany. You play in Karlsruhe. Um, you played in Germany your whole career except for Iceland and 1 year in Belgium, right?
Right, exactly, exactly.
What was it about Germany that kind of kept you here? What was it about Germany that you thought, I'm going to keep taking these contracts here because what?
Um, I just thought it was the best fit for me, and it was the league. And at that time, a lot of German teams were always on me pretty early. And even when you're a young guy, you coming into a particularly a low level team in the BBL, the Bundesliga, like Karlsruhe at that time, you
Yep.
have to work your way up. You can still average 15. You can average 15 and 7, but if your team finished 12, 13 place, the higher up, lower playoff teams may think, I don't know, maybe
Mhm.
because he's scoring at that level, can he score at a higher level? So it was just like I just kept climbing the ladder, and I was good with being in this country and continue to push myself to get to the next level.
You played until you were 38.
Yes, till I was 38. Yeah.
When did you know it was time to hang it up and why?
Well, I think after my last season in Jena, well, I'll take that back. 2 years before, I had kind of started thinking about it, but in a way, like, okay,
Where
what I
were
want
you?
to
Was
do.
that when you were in Braunschweig?
No, it was when I was finishing up in Vesta
Okay.
in 2017.
Mhm.
So I went to Jena, but at the same time had those feelings of starting to think about what I wanted to do next, and then I just kind of started just having those thoughts in my mind, what I want to do, going back to the States, staying in Germany, coaching. And so I kind of like put myself in that put that trail out there for myself. But it was never really a moment like on the court, like some guys have, like damn, I need to go. I need to go sit down somewhere. It was just more like, okay, how much longer do I want to do this? And do I feel good doing it? And when I came to that decision, it was just like it was easy for me because I had kind of like a plan in place, and I
Right.
felt good. I felt I could have still played, but it was just like, do I want to play one more year, or do I want to get into coaching? Because I actually had an offers to play, but it was just like, was it worth it one more time? It was always good to play, but I never missed it when I left it, so I knew it was the right thing to do.
I mean, you and I talked when you were here in Braunschweig as well, and I like really tip my hat because you were still playing. I mean, when
Yeah.
I retired, I was 34, and I
Mm.
knew that that was going to be it. That was the last
Yeah.
rodeo. I was tired of preseason. Uh, I, I was done, right? So,
Yeah.
of course, then my situation was a little bit different where I went right into coaching in a weird way, but that's not the
Mm.
point. The point is, I can't imagine to be in the shape that you were in for one, and
Mm.
that is a testament to how well you stay prepared.
Mm.
But how to be in shape, how to go through preseason, how to the grind, the bus rides and everything at 37, 38. I can't imagine it, man.
Man, I mean, for me, it was always, like you said, the preparation because I think actually what's funny is about Braunschweig, that summer before I came to play for Roll helped me the rest of my career because I hired a personal trainer to
Mhm.
train me the rest of the years of my career. Like, so when I went home, normally I would take 2 weeks off. Maybe by the eighth, ninth day, I would start doing some cardio. Then I slowly get back into it, but then I would start working with fitness trainer on my body, working on my knees, my back, my core, just staying in really good shape, and at the same time working out on my own. 1.5 hours in the gym, and then I would just come home. That would be it. So the preparation was there.
When I think of you in the Bundesliga, for me, probably because I played against you that when you first got to Frankfurt, but for me, that time when you were in Frankfurt was like, damn, this dude is good. Like this dude is really freaking good, right? So that's the memory I have of you in Frankfurt. What was the time period where you felt like you were really in your prime?
I would say definitely the years in Frankfurt, uh, because I think like when I went to Leverkusen, I made a jump, and I remember when we got beat in the playoffs. I think we lost like 3-1 to, man, who did we lose to? I think it was Louisburg. And I remember I was really pissed, man. Like, and I didn't have a good series, and I think that year I may have been the lead scorer, but I was trash during the series. They did a really good job, frustrating me, doubling, putting different people on me, beat me up. So that that summer, I didn't even really take no time off. It was June. I think I went home middle of June. Like a week later, I was already back in the gym working, and like opportunity for Frankfurt came, and it was just like, oh, you're gonna play Euro Cup and BBL. It was just like, hey, I got to make the most of this opportunity because that was something I also wanted to finally play international competition to see what all the talk is about. To play against the bigger teams, and
Right.
um, that was a
You
great
always want to
experience for
measure
me.
yourself.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, we got Valencia, Azamash. We're playing against Nancy when they were great. We had a lot of great teams in that group, and it was some big time players in that group. So you wanna play against those guys from Spain, from Italy. That's that competition you want.
I mean, looking back on it, that period in Frankfurt, um, would you say that that was kind of like your coming out party, kind of in where okay, later you would play for Alba. I mean, you bounced around a little bit. You played for 8 different teams in Germany, but you had a hella long career.
Mm.
Um, would you say that when you got to Frankfurt, you got to play internationally, and Frankfurt had good teams back then, that was
Mm.
kind of like your coming out party where other teams really started to focus on you?
Yeah, definitely, for sure, definitely. I think it kind of changed then when I played in Frankfurt. Just because I think that year one was so good that everybody just like it put everybody on notice, and I still start getting offers from other teams and start hearing my name in other conversations in other countries. So yeah, I would definitely say that for sure.
And then after Frankfurt, you moved to Alba.
Yeah, I moved to Berlin. Yeah.
What was the change? Okay, I would say Frankfurt at that time was on the way up, and you guys had a really solid base, but
Mm.
Alba, of course, is Alba. That's a different caliber.
Mm.
What was it like for you to go from one team in the BBL to a higher team in the BBL, one with a lot of tradition, to
Mm.
leave Frankfurt to go to Alba? How was that situation for you?
It was like you're going to the top floor. You know, you're with Frankfurt, you're on the second floor, and Frankfurt for me was like home. I mean, that last year we we lost game 5, Bamberg, last second, you know, and then to go to Alba is just like the tradition, another step up in professionalism, how they do things. You see how high level clubs work and how, you know, you have to be prepared, high level coach. Everybody, position players 1 through 12 can play.
Right.
And so you got to bring it every day in practice. So there's no real, you couldn't slack. So if you don't play well 2 days before the game, let's see how much you play. So I mean, if you look around, you got Julius Jenkins, Emmanuel McElroy, you got Bryce Taylor. Um, yeah, you just got, you know, you got really good players. You know, Hollis Price. It's got really good players around you, so it makes it easier. But at the same time, you know, you got to bring it every day.
So so your career goes, you move around after Alba, you go to,
After Alba, I went to Belgium, Spiro
oh,
Charleroi.
that's when you went to Belgium. Then you
Yes,
after Belgium, you came back and
came
you
back.
were where?
I was in Bremerhaven.
Bremerhaven, and from
Yeah,
Bremerhaven you come to Braunschweig.
Braunschweig. Yeah.
Braunschweig, you go to Fechter,
I go to Vesta for 2 years, and then I finish up in Jena.
and then you finished up in Jena.
Yeah,
So, I mean, you pretty much been all through the map of Germany, kind of. You've been
right,
up
right,
north, you've been down south, you know.
exactly.
Um, was was it an adjustment for you? Okay, you were married also, or you're still married with the
Mm-hmm.
family. How was it for you to have a family and then move around so much?
Well, I mean, it's definitely an adjustment. You know, at the beginning when it's just you and your wife, you know, it's easier to move. But when I got to Braunschweig, that's when we had our first daughter, so it was a little bit easier. You know, when the kids are
Still a
young,
little, right?
she was 3 months when we got to Braunschweig, and then we came to Vesta. She was closing in on 1 years old, so uh, it's difficult when the kids are in school, or you know, when they find kindergartens. You know how hard it is in Germany to find kita spots and things like that. It's not like in the States, so you have to be a little bit more conscious about the people who are around you, and also about where you want to play as a player. You know, because at that time when I had my first daughter, it was like, okay, I got to take less to put my family in a better situation.
Situation.
You
Mhm.
know, to go play in, no disrespect, Greece or Romania, or you know, to make an extra 20 or 30,000, it's not worth it to me. Instead of being in a good country, you know, where my family's good, they know their surroundings. You know, I think that's more important.
Right. So when you retired, you were on the all-time scoring list. Were you number one?
I
I
think
I saw
so.
somewhere that you were number seven all time, but I didn't know if that was um
I think that's the all time list. I think the one that pops up now that Rick is number one is like from 1998.
right. Okay, so
Yeah,
like
I
since the
think
BBL, since the Bundesliga kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
okay.
exactly. So the one from seventh has got to be like from the all time list.
So I mean, think about it. You come from a small town in Alabama. You play over here in Europe many years. You end your career in Germany as the seventh leading scorer in the history of German basketball.
Mm.
When you look at your accomplishments, like, do you think, man, I came a long way, or like, do you take a moment to be proud of what you accomplished?
Um, I think yes. When I first, you know, retired, and you know, if I see it, you know, I saw Pierre Gunter post something where he was like one of the top 10 guys in scoring now, and I saw my name up there. So it still gives you
It
that good
pops up
feeling. Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, it pops up sometimes, and it's humbling, you know, and it's like, man, you know, I remember, you know, when I first played in the Cars Rule, that we was in Alba. And you know, back then when you played against a small team played against Berlin, it was like, okay, you're gonna lose. But I told myself like, man, if I could play in one of these in a club like this, if I could be one of these great players, then I feel like, man, I accomplished a lot. So definitely it's humbling. Definitely, you know, it showed what hard work is, and definitely grateful for the journey that I've been on for sure.
We as athletes, especially basketball, because of the structure and the nature of contracts, we usually don't have longer term contracts. They're usually 1, 2, or 2+1, something like that.
Mhm.
So a lot of times we don't get yeah, to really have our fate in our hands, like as far as
Hmm.
how many years and how long we stay somewhere.
Hmm.
You've moved around, but was there anywhere that you wished, looking back on it, man, maybe I should have hung around a little bit longer in one of the places that you stayed?
Um, to be honest, the one that Frankfurt, but the funny thing was, it was like it had already the wave had already passed,
Mhm.
and so it was like one of those things where the club was going in a different direction. It was,
Rebuilding.
well, I think at that time they had Deutsche Bank as a sponsor, and Deutsche Bank was thinking about pulling out, so the club basically had to make a decision like, okay, how do we use the sponsor money we have left for them and go in another direction? And then they went to build, to bring Barthel and Joe Vaughtman and go with young Germans, and they built it up. And Gordon Herbert did a great job after that. So it was basically like I was leaning more towards staying and going to Alba, but it was like the GM Gunnar Warbeck at that time was like, "Da, we love you, but you got to take it." So it was just like in a good way, like we, you know, you got to take this opportunity. You can't let this pass you by.
Right,
So yeah,
right.
and
They don't
and
come
at
too
the end,
often.
they don't come too often. So it was just like a nice way to say we're grateful for you and we thank you for everything, but I think it's best we all move on and leave on a good high note. So it was, in the end, it was cool.
I've got a viewer question, and I'm assuming this is someone you know and you played with in the past. Tom McChesney. He asks, DA, is Tom McChesney the best point guard you've ever played with?
Shout out Mick Chesney, man. That's one of Toronto's, Hamilton, Ontario's finest right there. One of the best PGs and even one of the the best people I ever been around. So he played with me in Karlsruhe, played in Heidelberg, man. Great person, gave me a lot of assists, man. So I'm grateful for him.
So he's partly responsible for some of those numbers you got on that
Yeah,
all-time list.
yeah, yeah. He's partly responsible too. He's partly responsible for not getting enough buckets because I didn't pass to him also.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about coaching. So after you
Yeah,
retire, you jump right into coaching,
yeah.
and you were first an assistant in Fechter.
Hmm.
Was coaching something that you had planned for a long time, or was it the opportunity presented itself and you said, okay, that's the way I want to go?
No, it was. I think, like I said, my last 2 years, I started thinking about it more about coaching, and went to Vegas, watched a lot of basketball, talked to a lot of people out there, did some networking stuff there 2 years before I even retired, and then yeah, I mean, I was in between, keep playing, taking the offer. Then my good friend Pedro Callis called me and it's like, hey, what do you think about, coming joining my staff? We're going to be Champions League and BBL. We had a good relationship. We always kept in contact. And yeah, then I just made the decision. Do I want to play one more year? Do I want to do what I know what's next for me?
I mean, it's also like the logical step that players become coaches, right? I mean, that's usually how it goes. But how was the adjustment for you? Because when I started coaching, I was horrible because I couldn't see the view from a coaching standpoint. I was still thinking as a player, that's right away. And so you're still thinking as a player, but you have to think a
Yes,
totally different way when you're a coach. I was a head coach when I
yes.
stopped, but you were an assistant, so you were able to kind of feel your way through it. Was there still a learning curve that you needed to to learn?
Definitely. I mean, I think it's a learning curve in everything. When
Right.
just because you're a player, you know the game, but you have to realize that coaching is a different acumen. And at the same time, we as players, we come to practice, we come to hoop, we go home. We
We
show up to
go.
the games, we run the plays,
Right.
we do what the concept, what the coaches says. But then when you're in the room for coaches, like you got to think about, can't think about one player. You think about 12. You got to
Right.
think about practice skills. You got to think about workload. You got to think about you got to listen to agents, you got to listen to players complaining, you got to listen to your GM or your president having wishes what they want. So as assistant coach, it gave me a good opportunity to look back and see it working behind two guys who kind of paved the way for me to show me like, hey, this is how we work here. This is how we want scouts. This is how we work with our players. And it was really good for me. So the adjustment definitely was there. Because I think as a player, if you tell a coach something, you just your first year, he may look at you like, "What are you talking about?" You may say something that's kind of like stupid to the head coach uh, when you're a player and then you go into coaching. So yeah.
What was the biggest adjustment you needed to make going from player very high level player to now you're the bottom man on the totem pole as an assistant coach?
Um, it was easy for me because I think I look at my career as always a humble start anyway. So I mean, I started, I got a third division offer, I got cut. I started, in Iceland. So it's like, for me, it's like, yeah, what worse can you do in a professional business? Like, okay, you humble, you got to learn. I think the
Right.
biggest adjustment was learning the practice schedule. And what I mean in terms of the drills of what you do, because that's one of the things as a player,
You
three
take
man
for
weave,
granted.
this, this, but it's like, hey, when you play for or work with other coaches, and what I did with Callis, it was like, yeah, we didn't do three man weave. We did more of this up tempo Spanish style practice. So it was like I was kind of lost like the first 3, 4 weeks in understanding the drill. I understood the concept, but then picking up the drills. But once I picked everything up, it was just like everything just kept moving.
In the end, it's basketball. No
Ex-
matter if you
ex-
got a Spanish guy at the helm or you got an
exactly,
American guy. At the end of the
exactly,
day, it's a round orange ball, and it's the game we all love and played our whole lives. But of
exactly.
course, um, like you said, that thought process to think about more than just yourself as a player as opposed to a coach is something that I think we all is like, wow, this is what coaches do. It's like,
Yeah.
damn, they do a lot. Like,
Yeah. It's a lot of preparation, man. So for the players, when you're a player, it's easy. You come in, like I said, the coach tell you what to do, where to go, where to run, plays to run, play. But when you're a coach, you got to think about what you want to run that day. What what do you need to work on? Where 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3? Do we work on post up, pick and roll defense, our offense transition? So you have to put a good practice plan in place, and also you have to keep the players engaged. That's another thing. And when you become a coach, you got to recognize that players are people first. You know what I mean? There are certain. I've been in that situation as a player where you have coaches who you work for who just treat you like a piece of meat. It's a meat market. It's like, hey, if you don't get it done, we're gonna get the next one in here. But that's one of the
that's the
biggest things I
business.
learned. You gotta treat players want to know that they're cared for first, that they can come to you, that they can, hey, what happened to you today, man? Hey, coach, man, long night, wife was tired, baby wouldn't sleep, man. So I was up all night. That's why I had the type of practice I had. This is like, okay, listen, I get it. Family's important. You got to make sure the baby gets her rest. Make sure the wife gets her rest. Um, but we got to find a way to fight through these issues in practice and get things done. So it's a lot that comes with it, man.
So there was I remember this pretty vividly. There was, I think after your first year, there was some kind of like weird thing that went on in Fechter. It was announced that you were leaving the club. And then I think I might have even hit you up like, hey, I saw the press release and I was like, okay, I hit you up. I was like, yo, what's going on? And you kind of like, you're like, I can't really talk about it. Just keep your eyes open. And then like 2 weeks later, you were back.
Yeah,
Like, can you touch on that a little bit? Because I still don't know the whole story behind that.
the thing was, it's like, okay, like I said, I work with Pedro. Um, Pedro, brought me there. Then he left. He got the opportunity to go to Hamburg. So unfortunately, I couldn't go, and which in the end was the right thing to do. He took his main guy, Miguel Sabata, with him.
Right.
So, um, the club wanted to keep me, but the club wanted also the new coach, which was Thomas Petch, to uh,
Choose his own staff.
choose his own staff. So the club was like, "Hey, we want to keep you. Find a way to keep you." Um, but maybe it'll be in the capacity of your coach, the youth club, Regio, and BBL. And so I was like, in the end, I was like, I don't want to do that. I understand why, we want to keep you. Yeah, I appreciate it. But I think in the end, I want to go to be a head coach. And I feel like that if I take the step back to be a club coach, I won't really be considered for anything.
Right.
And, maybe I would, but I would have to go be an assistant coach, which is nothing wrong with. I think being an assistant coach is a really good opportunity to learn from someone who you get to work from, who's really great at what they do. But I had to take the chance on myself to say, listen, I'm grateful for everything this club done for me, but I think for me and where I am and where I want to go, that's not what I want to do. So that's how that whole thing came about, because the club put a lot of interest in trying to keep me. That's like, hey, you can work this, you can do this, and it was just like, basketball is already coaching is tough. If I got to coach two teams, I got my wife and kids. It's like I'm putting a lot
Never.
of that. I'm putting a lot of that in jeopardy when I'm already not home. So I had to choose, and I had to take a stand, and in the end, it worked out. A couple of weeks later, Thomas called me. He's like, "Hey, I want you as my assistant. We're going to make it work." There was no hard feelings. It was just something else came up because Arnold Voltman was the assistant coach, but then he got an opportunity to go to Zalgiris Kaunas. So
What
that's
you
the
got to take.
yeah, and that's the opportunity that came because he went with Martin Schiller to
Right.
Zalgiris, and then that's how it came back to me. Sometimes it goes like that, but at the end, I think it's all about being true to yourself and saying what you want to do, and I think God will make the rest happen for you.
Uh, so then after Thomas was let go, you were promoted then to head coach.
Yeah,
Looking back on it, were you ready for that step?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, are you ready for everything in your first situation as a head coach? No.
No.
And especially in the situation where the club was in, down situation, a real slim shot to stay in the league. So I think it was a good opportunity to take, and I'm grateful that I got to work with Thomas. I think Thomas is a good coach, and I think he will be a BBL head coach again. I just think sometimes things just doesn't work out, and for me,
Yeah.
in that opportunity, it was good for me because I got 8 games and I got the opportunity to work with a good group of guys. And, those guys fought for me, so I was always grateful for those guys. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot on the fly. It was good that I got to bring in Mauricio Parra to come
Great
help
dude.
me.
Great
Yeah,
dude.
great dude. He came in and helped me at that time, called him out the blue, and he jumped to the opportunity. So he helped me a lot. And, he helped me to see the game a different way. He's real honest, and he'll tell you,
Yeah.
"Hey, DA, this is not good, man. You got to do something else." And I had to listen to that because he got so many good years, as experience as assistant coach. He coached me in Berlin, so I knew I could trust him and what his
Right.
words were. So yeah, it was good. It was helpful, man. It was great.
So then the team moves down to the second league, to the
Yes,
Pro A.
yes.
And how long were you there before you were let go?
Um, October, mid-October, like
So
October the
season
20th.
practice starts August, end of July, August, and then you were let go in October.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. What do you think was the reason why, and do you think that they were a little bit too quick on the gun? Because that's pretty early.
Yeah, but I'll answer the second question first. We're in a result-driven business,
Yeah, yeah,
so that's outside of my control. So I can't speak on how quick they were, or what they not. Um, I know I took over a team that was dropped down from the BBL that has a history of moving right back up. I felt like I put a really good team together. We had some really bad luck from the before even preseason started. I signed your guy, Mike Coffin, I think that's his
yeah,
name.
yeah,
I
yeah.
signed one of his players, a guy named AJ Moye, who I felt like not AJ Turner. I'm sorry, and 6'7" wing who can play position 1, 2, and 3, and then he gets knee and ankle injury in a pickup game. So we had to sign a replacement player. This is in late July, so I decided to bring him. Uh, Preseason's going, struggling, can't realize why I had another guy get injured the second day of or third day of preseason on a non-contact drill, hamstring. Uh, so I had signed one player who was in the end, we found out he had to go to the Afro basket that had to be made up from February. So he missed 2 weeks. So a lot of the preseason, we was going practicing pretty hard, but I was practicing with 9 guys. So we were battling. We had a good group. Season starts. Finally get the full roster together with about a week to go before the season. And in the first game of the season, my point guard Carlos Matlock breaks his hand, second quarter. Right before the season started, we realized that Devin Searcy is my starting five, who's BBL veteran, played Champions League in Poland the year before, had cartilage damage in his knee. So it was just like, man, things are just
Yeah.
piling up from the beginning,
Right.
and the guys were battling through, and then made some changes. Brought in Preston Purifoy, who was a really good three-man, great addition. Uh, Brought in a point guard, James Washington, and just didn't get off to a good start. We actually didn't bring the point guard in until the third game, and so the hole just kept getting deeper and deeper, and the guys started losing confidence, and we lost the game in Paderborn, and I got let go.
I mean, it's crazy to hear you talk because I hear the same kind of thing that I felt when I was coaching in Jena. So you like what you said about your club had a history of you know if they drop down they try to get right back up, and so
Mm-hmm.
there's usually when a team drops down, what a lot of people don't understand is when a team drops down, the fan base still wants you to move back up right away.
Exactly.
A lot of people mistake it that you still have a very high budget, which is usually not the case because it's expensive to play in the BBL. So you have to regenerate funds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so because of the high expectations of fans and sometimes also the management,
Mm-hmm.
um, there's just everything is kind of like ready to explode and people get antsy really fast. And that's how it was for me when we moved down to the I coached the last 15 seasons or 15 games in the first league, and we moved down and
Mm-hmm.
we had no money. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about like we were in debt, right?
Okay.
And but I put
Okay.
together a really, really good team on I always say I put together a champagne team on a Coca-Cola budget. And
Okay.
uh, of course, by putting together such a good team, that also raises the expectations of the fan base. They're like, hey, you got this guy, you got this guy. This is we're going to move back up.
Mm-hmm.
And especially for a young coach, I mean, that was your first year really coaching. It was my real first year coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're not afforded the luxury of patience from
No.
surrounding.
No. No. And at the end of the day, like I said, that's outside of my control because
Yeah,
if
yeah,
investor, they always they got a great fan base, small town, basketball crazy,
yeah,
every home game sold out. So in the Pro A, the people feel like, hey, we're supposed to win in the Pro A. And for me, again, that's outside of my control. All I can
right,
control is how I prepare the team. I pick the players. And what a lot of people got to understand is, even coaches, we all take the hit, whether it's good or whether it's bad. And even
yeah,
when it's good, there may be times where you don't even get the credit, and you got to be okay with that. So
mhm,
for me, the biggest thing that I take from it is like, number one, I don't lose no sleep regarding what happened.
right,
Why? Because I know I put everything into it.
right,
I prepared well. I spent hundreds of hours, even neglecting my family some days on vacation. I'm on vacation. I'm still got my
working,
laptop, talking to agents, talking to players. Doing the things you got to do a part of the job. But I just think failure is a part of it sometimes, and you got to look stupid. You got to go bad. But the funny thing is, you go 3-5 in the BBL the last 8 games, and then you start 0-5 in the Pro A. So it's like, as a person, of course, I was pissed. I was down. I was devastated.
right,
I was angry at the beginning. But you got to let that go, man. You just got to keep pushing and wait for the next opportunity, and just learn from it, and which I did. I learned a lot. Watched all the practices. Watched all the games. I think it always helps you to watch yourself the second and the third time around as a coach, even from your practices, in
right.
terms of just, man, maybe I shouldn't have did this. Shouldn't have explained it this way. And at the end, it always looks good on paper, but
But
then it's about how they correlate, how they work
exactly,
together. And the biggest thing is, just because you have money doesn't guarantee you a spot to move back up.
yeah.
And
too much can happen.
yeah, too many things can happen. So
Um, I need to take a quick break right now. I need anybody who's watching the Bayern Munich Barcelona game to give me an update. Please throw it in the comments and let me know what the score is. So, um, back to the coaching thing. Um, I say it all the time. Coaches are hired to be fired, right? I mean, there's no shame in a coach being fired. I mean, everybody has to kind of go through that. Now you've had a little bit of distance. How are you or how are you able to um, prepare yourself and stay focused and ready for maybe the next chance that you are obviously looking for, right?
yeah, absolutely. Man, just continue to watch a lot of film, uh, visit coaches, go watch practices, watch a lot of games. Um, and at the same time, build your own practices again. What you want to take away from your last situation. What do you want to implement new? Talk to coaches, get ideas. Um, it's just all about learning and improving. And I think for me, it was just one of those things where I had to say, okay, when you go 0-5, you get fired. It's bad. So something didn't work,
Right.
and you have to figure that out, and then you say, okay, I'm not going to do that again. And also, you have to understand that maybe sometimes it wasn't the thing that didn't work or the concept. It could be other aspects. You have a lot of injuries. You have players who, and I'm not throwing none of my players under the bus that I had. All great players, all great people. Sometimes the player who played well the year before may not play well at the beginning, during that
Right.
time. And
Right.
it may not be because they don't, appreciate the opportunity or the pro A, or they think it's beneath them. It's just, hey,
It's an adjustment.
it may be adjustment. It may be like they in a shooting slump. They're not performing. So it's just a lot of factors that go into it, man. A lot of factors.
So on the personal side, I'm sure your family is glad that you had some time off from coaching. I mean, you went as a player, then directly into coaching. So you were gone constantly. You were on, like you said, on your laptop, watching film, doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm sure your family is pleased that you had some real time off these last months in between. Um, can you talk a little bit about being a girl dad? Because I feel like times have changed, whereas in like 15 years ago, um, all ballers wanted to have a son, right?
Yeah,
You want to have
yeah,
a son to carry the
yeah,
torch for you, right?
yeah,
So, and I think especially Kobe made it kind of cool to be a girl dad, right? And you've
yeah,
got two daughters.
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how now that you've been able to be around your daughters more, how that's kind of changed you and how you look at it being a father to girls?
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I think I've been working in professional business almost 20 years, and so this is the first time I've had so much
Mhm.
time. Normally you get, if you don't make the playoffs, you get 3 months break, but I've been off for about 6.5.
Right,
So waking them up, taking them to school, picking them up, going to tennis, going to art class. It's been great, man. It's been great to watch them and evolve with them and spend more time with them and go to the playground with them and you know, just make up for some of that lost time. Just to give them that feeling, and establish that relationship even deeper. So I know they're happy that I'm home and they get to do more. I try to do more with them every day. So it's great, man. Like I don't feel like I'm the guy that needs a son, because I feel like if one of my two girls play a sport, whatever sport it is, I'm gonna be okay with it, because I'm not the type of father who says, "Yeah, you got to play basketball." No, you're gonna
right,
play tennis. Okay, let's be great at tennis.
right.
You're gonna play soccer. Let's foosball. Let's be great at it. And put your heart into it and let's see where it goes. But I'm extremely proud of my girls, man. They're definitely the proudest thing that I've done as a person. Giving having God in my life, having my wife, my children. That they put everything in place.
So your wife's name is Ellie, right?
Yeah, Elnos, yes.
Is she ready to get your butt out of the house now that you've been home so long?
Nah, man, she's loving it, man. She's loving it. She's loving it. She just whisk out the house every morning for work. Like, hey, you handle it, you take care of everything. So it's like for her, it's been like paradise. But no, I think she's been happy with it. But I'm sure I'm getting on her nerves. But we're not, I'm at home, doing a lot of, basketball stuff in the morning while the family and my wife is at work. So,
Right.
so yeah, she's happy with everything right now. So I think she's enjoying all of this right now for sure.
So what's the next move for you, man? What are you thinking about?
Man, just want to get back at it, man, and get a rematch, and run it back and see the adjustments I made and see what's next for me and get another head coaching opportunity for sure. But let's see, what happens. I can't also just negate the opportunity. Maybe if a really good assistant job comes up at a higher level team, I definitely will consider it. But I definitely want to be a head coach again and make the situation different the next time around for sure.
I feel you on that. So now I got a couple overtime questions, just a few quick answer questions. Are you
Hmm.
superstitious, man? Did you have any game day rituals?
No, man.
Somehow,
My only
somehow I think you are.
No, I didn't. The only routine I had was going really hard in the pregame. That was it. Going like a real workout 1.5 before the game started. That was my only. I don't know if you call that a superstition,
But
superstition,
that
but
was
I'm
your
not superstitious.
routine.
That was just my routine, but I'm not superstitious now.
Um, so I have the opinion that you were actually underrated defender. Everybody,
Okay.
everybody, everybody talks about your scoring and that you could put the ball in the basket, but I have the
Yeah.
feeling that you were underrated defender. Um, who gave you fits in Germany where you were like, oh, I got to strap on my hard hat tonight because this dude is going to come at me and he gives me fits. I mean, besides me, who else was
Besides you,
it?
let's say, man. I would say I would look at the power forwards, and I would look at one center. Um, Pedro Supert, who played at
Yeah,
Bamberg,
yeah. He was
undersized.
he was tough. He was
He was a
tough.
3'4",
Yeah,
2 meter one, 250 pounds. Nathan Peavy
yeah.
uh, was a good one. Man, I played against so many guys. Man, I can't. I say Chris Williams also back in
Oh,
the day
yeah, he was
was
he was
was
nice.
was tough because he was a
He was
three at
nice.
Virginia. He could put the ball on the floor.
Yeah,
Um, Man, who else? I would say Kyle Hines when he played in the league because he
yeah.
was so small. And Jeff
And
Gibbs,
strong.
Jeff Gibbs also who played in
Yeah,
6'2", still playing in Japan right now.
Jeff is
Like,
still playing.
yeah, he's still playing in Japan. Yeah,
Wow.
he's still playing in Japan. So he was a guy who was, gets it off the rebound, bring it up full court.
Little Barkley.
Yeah, it was a Barkley. So those are some of the guys who I had trouble against for sure.
How would you like the fans to remember you as a player? It's not in your hands, but I mean,
Yeah,
but
just a guy who went all out, who who tried to always put on a good show, tried to do everything that he could for his team to win, and that was it. I think that would be it.
um, what was your favorite pair of kicks to play in?
Man, the Hirachis, the 2K4s, Kobe's. I think I first got a pair of those when I played with Bayer Leverkusen because we were a Nike sponsor, a Nike team at that time. So I remember there were three Nike teams at that time: Leverkusen, Cologne, and Frankfurt. So I got them in Leverkusen, and then I got them the next 3 years in Frankfurt. So I love that shoe, man. Light shoe. Man, that's probably the best shoe I've played in for
I got
sure.
a story. I got a crazy story. And this is going to show how old I am.
Yeah.
So when I was at Arizona,
Hmm.
Arizona's a Nike shoe, a Nike team. When I was at Arizona, we were the testers for the original Hirachis, the very
Okay.
first Hirachis. We had them
Okay.
before anybody had them, and we were testing, and we had to like always after practice, we always had to write stuff down, how it felt, and like all this
Okay.
kind of survey kind of stuff. And the one thing that I regret when I left Arizona is I left rather unceremoniously, but we won't talk
Mm.
about that right now. Um, I actually threw my Hirachis at Coach Olson. No lie,
Oh.
no joke. At midcourt, at the McCaw Center, I I threw my shoes at him and I walked out with socks on. Long story, um, but that's the one thing that I remember that I was like, damn, I wanted those shoes.
You lost your moment right there to take
I,
those shoes with
oh
you,
yeah,
man.
I didn't take. You know how much money those would be worth right now, man?
Thousands
Hey,
of dollars.
so yeah, we were the testers, and we had to test those original shoes, and I love those shoes. Okay, man. What do you? Last question. What do you miss the most from your playing days?
I would say the locker room.
Yeah, that's what
The
everybody
com
said.
the camaraderie, the locker room,
Yeah,
the before the practice, after the practice, just sitting around. Like I think for me, the last 2 years when I was with the old guys with Mac and Julius was probably, and I was with them 2 years. No, I was with
before
them for
in
one
in
year. I
in
was with them one
Braunschweig.
year. I was with Mac 1 year in Braunschweig, and
Yeah,
then I was with Mac and Julius 1 year in Berlin.
yeah,
So I think, at the end of my career with those two guys who I came in the league with, it was like every day was Comedy Central, man. It was just like, the three old guys and the rest of the young guys. And, yeah, the locker room, man, just being with your teammates and the day to day. And I think that's the best part about the job, man, for sure.
yeah. I mean that's what I miss too. I miss the camaraderie and I miss just competition. I miss like game days. I lived for game days and that's what I really miss. Just the feeling of going to a game and getting hyped and going to battle with the guys that you worked out with all weekend with a strategy and trying to your best to get a win. And that's
Yeah.
that's the thing that I miss. I had it as a coach too, but of course
Mm.
as a coach is different. It's a different kind of oh, that's a good question. Do you like winning more as a coach or as a player? I like me personally, I like winning better as a coach.
Yeah, for sure. Winning better as a coach.
Yeah,
Um, but it's just like everything else. It's like you can enjoy it for that day, and then you
yeah.
can't get
And it's
comfortable. You
gone.
got to get it's gone. That's the best thing about it. And I will say also say winning games as a coach is even out of your control.
Oh yeah,
I think the best thing what coaches what we can do is about your preparation and for the process. How you
yeah,
prepare, how you work well with your coaches, what kind of input they give you. Do you trust them? Can you have arguments with them? Can you know what I mean? Not in a healthy way where they
yeah,
can, go against something you say that they don't see it working that way. That's how you know you got a good people you're working with.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, man. That's all I got, man. I'm really happy that you jumped on, and I'm really grateful that you came on and told your story and your journey from small town in Alabama all the
Oh
way
man.
over to Germany to end up being the seventh leading scorer in German history. I mean, that don't happen every day, you know what I'm saying? And I'm glad that you dropped some gems in here as well. And I'm glad that you told your story and how it was for you in your career, man. I really appreciate it.
No, Sean, thank you, man. It's good, to see good people putting out good content, man. So I wish you and the podcast nothing but the best, that it keeps growing, man, that you keep getting, good people on your podcast and, spreading this information out. I think it's helpful for guys who are coming to Europe to understand, to see what people talk about, to hear people's stories, and maybe if somebody can take one little small thing that helps them, I think
Exactly.
that's what it's about, to pass the knowledge on. If someone can take one piece of information, I think that's helpful.
So, man, get on up out of here. Go with your family. I'm gonna say goodbye to the viewers. Thank you, man. I'll be in touch. We'll talk anyway. But have a good evening and be safe, man.
All right, bro. Take care, man. I appreciate you. We'll be in
No
touch.
problem. All
All
right.
right, bro. Peace.
So, teammates, thank you for watching. I'm really glad that I got to touch base with the old nemesis. I got to say he got the better of me. I was at the end of my career and he was in his prime, so he definitely got the better of me. But I really loved competing against him, and he's a good dude, man. He's when I was coaching the under 19s here in Braunschweig, he was playing here 1 year or 2 years, and he was always gracious with his time if I asked him to come talk to the team or say some words or something like that. So that's what makes a pro a pro, right? To be able to help those who are coming after you, and he definitely did that with my young guys. And yeah, so that's it for tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed what we had going on for tonight, and the video will be up tomorrow on the YouTube channel. I'll be sure to put Derrick's IG thing in there so you can follow his journey. And yeah, I got another one tomorrow. Pretty interesting guest for tomorrow. A little bit outside the realm of basketball in that sense, but something that I think is valuable for any athlete. More on that tomorrow. So I hope maybe the one or other of you will join in for that. And yeah, have a good night. Be safe. Hope to see you tomorrow. Go head out.